here. All right, there we go. There we go. We in this thing. We in this thing. We live, baby. You are now watching J.U.K.Boyz Sports Show. I'm your host, King Ralph, here with the homie, my co-host, the homie Kai. And hey, after we're gonna talk about it in a little bit, but it was fight weekend, so I had to get my boy Tar in the building. What's good with you, Brody?
What's up, man? How you guys doing?
Doing good.
Wonderful, man. Wonderful.
Did y'all lose money this weekend? Because
Man, I thought it was gonna be too close, so I didn't.
You stayed away.
I stayed away from it, but even if I had bet, I would have lost.
You know what's crazy about my job now? I can actually have conversations on people that I bet on. So it's like after the fight, I'm just looking at these like, bro.
Oh, really?
I need to run my $25 player because you assured me with our conversation you was finna win. You just got dusted. So Yeah, but now shout out to Nonito the Nair though. That's my guy, regardless of winning or losing. But man, he got washed. He got washed hella bad, bro.
Yeah, it's and we're gonna get to it in a little bit, but before we gotta get the usuals out the way. If you want to book any podcast photo shoots, music videos, call the number on the bottom of the screen, 707 Fitboxer. Make sure you follow us on all of our socials. You can follow me at KYNGRALPH, and that's TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, @_. For Twitter. Make sure for unbiased basketball analysis, we do got the FIBA World Cups coming up, and it's always a good time to talk about basketball. Whenever you're on Instagram, type in the.houseofhoops. And for unbiased breakdown by my man Kai. And let's jump straight in, man. Terrence Crawford dominated the fight, and as an understatement. But at the same time, there was a rematch clause after the fight. Earl said he's down to run it back. So it definitely is one of those things where they have you. Does he deserve a rematch?
So since we have a guest, I'm going to ask if you would like to take the honor. Our boxing aficionado, Tar, would you like to go first? Or
absolutely, yeah, I'll set it up. Yeah, so here's the thing, man. The term deserve, does he deserve a rematch? I don't think it would be smart for him to take a rematch right now, because the narrative is about 154. Will the fight look different at 154? Right. I mean, the skill level, there was a difference in skill level. Like whether it's 147, 154, Terrence Crawford looked like he was the more skilled boxer on Saturday. And no matter when you take that fight, you got to refine some of the skills. I think that what Terrence Crawford was able to do, like he switched southpaw, knowing that Errol Spence has only fought 2 southpaws in his career. Switching southpaw, he couldn't do nothing with him. He controlled the game with his jab and distance. He couldn't do nothing with that. So as far as that's concerned, like the skill level was from another level. I think that what Errol Spence needs to do, he needs to, first and foremost, he needs to rest his body, because where I will say the weight did have an impact on him. He looked awful coming to the ring. I'm sorry. He just didn't look, his legs weren't under him, right? I think Deontay Wilder mentioned that whoever rehydrated him needs to be, talked to or fired, for lack of a better term. But that's one of the biggest reasons why mega fights don't happen in boxing, because you look at the weight disparity, right? We look at the last fight with Ryan Garcia, him having to cut weight and how awful he looked coming into the ring. And I seen him, and he looked like one of those feed the children people, like going to the fight. You saw his ribs touching. That's why he was punching him in the ribs, because you saw his ribs touching, right? And so it's one of those things. This is why people don't cut weight, and that's why it's so hard to cut weight in boxing. And because you don't want to look how Earl Spence looked. There's no excuse that I'm shooting him, but that's the thing. And that's why mega fights don't get made in boxing, because you need to have the weight right. You need to look as good as you possibly can, right? And the way that he looked, he just didn't look great in the fight. But despite all the skill levels and stuff like that, he was outboxed. So that's one thing that I can say. Right. But secondly, he needs to rest the body, because the weight cut that he took was severe. Severe. He needs to get his body back to his natural weight, natural position before he takes another fight. And I would like to see him maybe fight like a Keith Thurman at 154, or if he wants a belt to claim to get his confidence back, a Brian Mendoza at 154. That's a very winnable belt. Brian Mendoza just won a belt not too long ago. knocking out the skyscraper guy. I can't think of his name right now, but he knocked him out,
Oh,
and that's a winnable belt.
That was the same day. Was it
Sebastian.
the undercard of the tag fight?
No, it was Sebastian Fedora. I'm sorry. Why am I?
Oh, okay.
Sebastian Fedora. He knocked Sebastian Fedora out, so that's a good belt for him to get. But I think that he should really take a fight at 154 just to see if he has the power, if everything is still there for him at 154, right. Because we're questioning right now if he's still even the same guy, right? So just to show the world that he's still there, right? And I don't think that rematch is going anywhere with Terrence Crawford because he mentioned his ability to want to go up to 154.
Right.
And so I just think it would be a smart move. And also too, I had the ability to talk to his trainer like one-on-one, Derek James. It's on the Combat Lounge fight channel with me and my boy Anthony Morrow. And we spoke to Derek James, and there's another thing too that concerned me too going forward with Earl Spence. Derek James said that he's going to be training Charlo in the next month's fight. He's going to be he said he's going to get Ryan Garcia. He's going to get Ryan Garcia right, and he's going to get the big heavyweight right, and then he's going to retire. So he's talking about his trainer's talking about retiring, which I'm breaking this news right now, but he wants to retire. So that doesn't bolt very well. You have the trainer of the year on your side. So that's the question I wanted to ask too. Now that I know what I know now, I couldn't ask him this at the time because the fight didn't happen. I interviewed him on Friday. Now that Saturday that Earl Spence lost, is he more rejuvenated to go back and want to reclaim this loss? Because not only that, Bomac, Terrence Crawford's trainer, them two had a thing, right? So do you want to avenge that Bomac loss too on your record, or are you secure with what you're going to do with Ryan Garcia, and are you secure what you're going to do with the big heavyweight, that you guys just signed to your camp, right? Are you secure with that and saying I'm going to retire, or now that Earl Spence lost, do you want to like rejuvenate him too, or you want to come back? So there's also that question too with the trainer that I have as well. So, but anyways, I'm gonna let you guys, take what you guys take it from here. But I just think that he should take another fight at 154, 140. The fight's not going anywhere with Crawford, but I really think that he should just rest his body and really come back maybe a year from now, take another fight, and maybe gain some confidence and then go. But, yeah.
And it's one of those things that I'm gonna be real quick before I let you take over for the rest of the time on this. But I think that I think it would benefit him because he's like, let's run it back in December. I'm like, bro, just wait. Because not to say that this is a time where they fall off, but Crawford is 35. So more time as he gets older could help you as well. Because that gap disparity, it's only so much that you can say as far as like, the weight, this, and the accident. Either you have the talent or you don't. And it looked like Crawford was on the A side and Spence was on the B side. Plus, I think going up in weight could help, as well as getting some fights to get some confidence back before you jump back in there. Just to kind of reiterate some of the things that you said, but just to get my personal perspective on it, I think that it would definitely do him some good because just straight running it back, and I just don't think that that's smart. To go back to the topic of whether or not he deserves, based on it, I would say no, but I also would say if I was a person that was in his corner, because I am a huge fan. Actually, big shout out to him the way that he's taken the L too.
Yeah,
he didn't do the Deontay Wilder and try to give excuses. So the music was too hyped or whatever it was. But I think at the same time he's taking it with grace. He was the better man. I didn't want to run it back. Hasn't said given an excuse or anything. You haven't heard an excuse come out of his mouth. It's been other people around giving their perspectives on it. And so if you have anything you want to add before we go to the next topic, Kai.
Actually, you both took the words right out of my mouth, and especially Utah. It's funny that we were just talking a couple of days ago. I think remember we were talking about Keith Thurman and Clarissa Shields. No, Keith Thurman, excuse me. And it's funny because Keith Thurman was actually the fight that I was actually looking at for Spence. I was thinking just building his confidence back up because of the way that he looked. One, you said before the fight, which I didn't really think about, but after the fight, I mean, the dude looked like moon craters, man. Like, come on now, you know what I'm saying? So I just saw that the beating that he took the time for recovery, because rest and recovery is key for boxers in between that. I'm like, man, he could seriously get injured bad if he just jumps right in. So I think what you both said about just the rest and recovery and also building that confidence back up. But my last little piece about how he handled the L, right? I think, yeah, his confidence may have been shot a little bit, but I just think to what you said, Ralph, how he handled the L, I don't think it was like completely shattered like some boxers, right? And so I think that's going to be critical for him moving forward. So yeah, I agree with both of you guys.
What's next for Terrence Crawford, y'all think?
That's the question. He's the A. He's the A right now.
At 147. Because Wallow said that he wanted my guy from Philly, Boots. He wanted him to fight Boots next, or he could go up to 154. He's not going to end up fighting Charlo, I don't think, because that's the Charlo that's fighting Canelo. So there's either
isn't he going up?
He wants to go up to 154. Oh no, who Charlo's going up.
Charlo's going
but Charlo has all the belts down here. So Charlo's the unified guy down there. So he could either stay at 147 and fight Boots, because Boots right now is the mandatory, or he'll go to 154 and challenge. There's a plethora of guys he could fight at 154. Tim Tszyu is the guy he could fight at 154. That's who Charlo was going to fight. Okay. And Tim Tszyu, he's the other belt holder. The regular champion.
Okay. The move might be to go up.
Yeah, I say the move. The move up.
Yeah,
would be the move. That's what I think, because I've already heard him talk about moving up. So next up, we got the Aces, man. Couple weeks. Feels like it was a couple weeks back. I remember hearing her, but when I looked it up, her surgery was only on the 25th. I don't know why surgeries be taking so long, but Candace Parker been playing with an injured foot all year. Finally got to the point where she needed surgery. Like I mentioned, she got surgery on the 25th, which at that point puts you at 2 to 3 months out. If you think about it, we're looking maybe just before the finals of her returning. Does this hurt their chances of repeating?
Actually, I don't think that it hurts their chances of repeating. I think that last year they were able to weather adversity, actually. And I think that what Candace Parker, and I'm not saying that she's not needed on that team. I think what she brings, Ralph and Tar, is she brings a veteran leadership, somebody who's won championships before, and a defensive presence that they an added defensive anchor along with A'ja Wilson. But the way that the Aces are currently playing, and also what they were doing with their record, without Candace Parker, it's like they're not missing a beat. No. You know what I'm saying? So it's like they've been thumping teams. It's really between them and the New York Liberty right now. The way Sabrina, how do you pronounce her last name? Ionesco, I believe. Yeah, Ionesco. Thank you. I'm gonna call her like SI, like Sports Illustrated. SI. I'll have to hit her up on IG or something. Hey, is this cool? But yeah, with the Aces, they're clearly right now the creme de la creme of the WNBA. They have the depth. That's something that they didn't necessarily have in years past. And so I think having the added depth that they have this year opposed to last year is going to be key for them. So I don't really think that this injury is going to affect their title chances, because you have to see who else there can really challenge them. I like the New York Liberty. Another team that has talent and is a really tough, gritty team is the Washington Mystics. I know that I mentioned them with, I believe, Sakura Stevenson, their center. And they also have Elena Deladon as well. They can play defense and they can also score. But outside of that, the Aces just right now, they're just really, really good. So I think that she brings a nice mentorship to that team. But also A'ja Wilson and Breanna Stewart, yet again, are in cahoots with the MVP running. And I believe Breanna Stewart has a lead at the moment, but it's close. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. I don't think it's going to impact them from being able to win a championship, at least not make the WNBA finals. So it'll be okay.
And they clinched yesterday. Am I correct?
They're in the playoffs.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
It's so.
It's like, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's crazy, bro, because it's. I think the one thing that I'll say, yes, it hurts their chances, but it's not making that much of a difference. I'm still gonna go with them as the favorites. They're way too deep. The way that Jackie Young's been playing this year, She's definitely emerged after having a couple years being. I think she was a number one overall pick too.
Check that out. Yeah, she might have
At
been.
one point, or she was a top 5 pick.
She was top 5. I think she's number 3, but don't
Yeah.
don't
Oh,
quote
that was
me.
quick.
Yeah,
There we go.
I don't remember if she was.
Was she number 3? Because that's like brownie points.
I was just looking it up. Yeah.
But I know she was at least a top 5 pick. So
I
for
know
her
she
to
was
be
Notre Dame. So.
right,
2 number 1. Mm-hmm.
Oh, number 1. Okay.
all right. And then then you got Kelsey Gray, veteran. You got Kelsey Plum, veteran. Asia Wilson, veteran. So it's like you have a lot of veterans, people that've been there, high level players. It's a lot of depth. So I don't see it like it's not going to kill their chances, but it's definitely it's Candace Parker. It's the take, so it's going to hurt a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
Next up, we got some top NFL offseason moves. We got the likes of the Bears getting DJ Moore. We got the likes of Jalen Ramsey going over to the Dolphins.
J-Ram.
Aaron Rodgers going to the Jets. You can even use a topic we're going to talk about a little bit. Sean Payton going to the Broncos. What is something? What are y'all top 3 offseason moves?
All right. Go ahead, Joe. Yeah, go ahead.
So in order, and I'm gonna name like the positions and stuff. So number 1, to me is Aaron Rodgers going to the Jets and Derek Carr going to the Saints, right? Because when you talk about 2 teams that desperately needed quarterbacks, these are 2 teams that desperately needed quarterbacks. They have elite top 10, top 5 defenses, but they didn't have the single collars. They have the young weapons on the outside. Both you got Chris Olave, you got Garrett Wilson, but they didn't have anybody to throw them the ball. They were still 1,000-yard receivers without the lack of continuity from a quarterback. So that's scary within itself, right? So all of a sudden you get 2 quarterbacks. You get one in Aaron Rodgers, who's a 3-time MVP. I don't have to go down the man's resume. We know what it is, right? He got him on Hard Knocks. Nobody wants to see Jets on Hard Knocks, but he got the Jets on Hard Knocks, right?
Right.
So it's like that, just the popularity that gets you having a guy like that on your team. You got a rock star there, right? So the swagger is back in the Jets, and you can really never sit that they had swagger at the quarterback's position since Joe Namath, arguably, which is crazy to even say that, right? So he gives them swagger and confidence. And then you got a guy like Derek Carr on the Saints that it's just different. Like he's a guy that he may not have been respected in a lot of in a lot of circles, for our hometown teams, right? But he's respected in league circles as a guy that can ball, right? We know his career, we know his body of work, the comebacks, all that type of stuff. He gives the Saints that confidence that they wrong, but they haven't had since Drew Brees left. So I think if they're able to right that position, and you're in a down year for NFC quarterbacks, in my opinion, right? You have, you don't have Aaron Rodgers there anymore. You don't have Tom Brady anymore, right? So you kind of start to name who's the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFC, right? You got Jalen Hurts, and you're kind of thinking about it from there. And now you're kind of in that round where the Saints, where you fit in, you got you guys, maybe not a top 5 quarterback, maybe not a top 10 quarterback, but 11 and 12, and that's not bad in the NFC. So that ranks number 2 and number 3 on that scale. The second one we just named quarterback. So we're in a passing league, right? So you need somebody, edge rushers, to get after the quarterback, right? So there's 2 guys, Javon Hargreaves and Zadarius Smith for the Browns. Those 2 they're my top added additions as defensive ends because of the teams that they went to, right? The play on the opposite end of Joey Bosa, right? You need a guy that can fit in the middle. He's a guy that had 12.5 sacks last year, 60 tackles, so he can stop the run, and he's getting in, and he's taking a lot of the pressure off of Joey Bosa. And then I mentioned Myles Garrett on the Browns. Him and Aiden Hutchinson were the 2 most double-teamed defensive ends a year ago. So having a guy like Zadarius Smith on the other side of you take a lot of that onus off of him, right? A lot of that pressure off of him, and you make getting to the quarterback a lot easier for him. And, Zadarius Smith is an all-pro, a Pro Bowler. So you got 2 Pro Bowlers on the defensive line to wreak havoc on the pass rusher, and a Jim Schwartz defense, who Jim Schwartz, as we know, is one of the most aggressive blitzing defensive coordinators there is. And Myles Garrett is my predicted defensive player of the year, by the way. So he's just going to add to that because he's going to be seeing more single coverage, more single blocks. And then my third one, we mentioned it, and we're going to talk about him earlier or talk about it later. But Sean Payton, I think that Sean Payton is good for Russell Wilson's confidence, right? Like you need a guy that can actually call plays, like who has called plays in games, that knows what he's doing, that has rehabbed the quarterback before. Because Drew Brees, before he got Drew Brees had shoulder issues and things of that nature, and he was able to help turn him into a Hall of Fame quarterback, right? And the thing about too the Broncos is they have a lot of talent that we don't know how talented they are yet. You know, you got Cortland Sutton, you got Jerry Jeudy that haven't been unlocked yet. You have Greg Dulcich at tight end. You got some two good young running backs in the backfield. We don't know how good they are yet, and I think if Sean Payton can't unlock the Broncos are just going to be garbage if he can't unlock them. So you need a guy like Sean Payton to pretty much unlock this team for us to really truly understand how good they are. Because right now that Russell Wilson trade is looking like one of the worst trades in NFL history, right? So you kind of need him to like restore the confidence and say this trade wasn't a bad trade. This was an even trade. So those are my three top offseason news.
I love those. I love those, Tar. Shout out to you on those. I just want to preface my comments real quick before I swing it to you, Ralph, that I don't think there's any wrong answer with these because I was looking at it, I'm like, I think we're all thinking about if the moves that we're all going to pick, if best case scenario, right?
Right.
So for me, I actually went with the Bears, and their move is just being able to get a haul for the number one pick, right? You trade the number one pick for a haul. You get 2 first rounders. I think they got 2 second rounders, round picks. You have a young quarterback, and you know how I'm on this show all the time talking about the importance of providing resource, building around your quarterback, right? You get a number one wide receiver in DJ Moore, a versatile wide receiver who could potentially be one of the best new duos, right? With Justin Fields and DJ Moore. And he also has experience playing with a mobile dual threat quarterback in Cam Newton in Carolina. Now he's going with Justin Fields, who's like the new toy, so to speak. So I really like them with their pick, best case scenario. And then I went with Ravens in signing Odell Beckham Jr. only because they spent a premium to get Odell Beckham Jr. And this is the Baltimore Ravens team that has never had a wide receiver who won a Super Bowl. So he's a veteran wide receiver, something that they lack on their squad, right? He knows how to win. He can beat one-on-one coverage, right? And he also has rapport and familiarity in Todd Monken's system. And then last but not least was Derek Carr to the Saints for everything that you said. He's reuniting with Dennis Allen, who I think he played with from 2012 to 2014. I've said many times that the NFC South is a division that I believe whoever has the best quarterback will win that division. And Derek Carr has a range of weapons in Michael Thomas, and I think it's Chris Olave, and he's the type of quarterback who can throw the ball around in the dome. So I like what you said, Tar, about the Derek Carr. So yeah, I got to figure out what's going on with this echo too. But those are my 3.
All right, for sure. Yeah, I pretty much. Some of y'all, I mean, y'all stole a lot of what I was going to say, but so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. But we got outside of some of the ones I am going to say that I do like what the Eagles did during the draft, getting trying to create Georgia 2.0 in Philly, bringing back Jason Kelce with that leadership, trying to run it back while losing certain players. So you're just more retooling than you are rebuilding in order to try to get back to the Super Bowl. So I think that's a really good one. I think it's a steal putting Addison next on the opposite side of Justin Jefferson. So I got him. I think that he's going to do really well with how often they sling the ball too. And then one of the ones I was going to say was the Hargraves with the 49ers, putting him on the same line with a Nick Bosa, who just was wrecking shop last year I think he was the defensive player of the year too. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
And so putting him on the same line, giving him some help with that crazy defense. It's just when we get into it, it just matters that quarterback position. But that defense was doing work on people on some top offenses last year too. And so I think that it's going to be a good NFL season. I'm looking forward to it. I got my Raider gear on, but I don't want to talk about that right now. And so we brought him up. Sean Payton, after joining the Broncos organization, has come out and pretty much was like, this ain't his quotes, but I knew it was messed up, but I didn't know it was this messed up. In regards to the way that Nathaniel Hackett, who is now with the New York Jets as their offensive coordinator, but the way that he ran the organization, he talked about the coaching staff as a whole. Was he inbounds or out of bounds?
So for that one, I actually thought that I really didn't have any issue with his comments. I just think that he was out of bounds for saying publicly. I actually listened to Tony Dungy and what he was saying, and he was like, "Yeah, that's nothing that you say publicly," And I think, make no mistake, there was no secret how poorly Nathaniel Hackett was as a head coach last year in Denver. Even look at Russell Wilson. People talking about Russell Wilson's not a Hall of Famer now. Some people may have already believed he wasn't a Hall of Famer before that. And I'm not saying that he was necessarily a Hall of Famer, but I think that if he had continued to win, put up a statistics production, he was probably on pace, to be one, right? And so I think that it really sullied a lot of people who may have thought of Russell Wilson highly as a quarterback. I think Nathaniel Hackett in that system and Russ, I think that also had something to do with it as well. And so I think that just Sean Payton was trying to instill confidence in his team. Actually, he just has an interesting way of doing it. He did it publicly, and he even said that he was like felt that he was like at Fox or something like that. I think like Fox, he used to be a broadcast analyst, and so I think he needs to remember you're not on TV anymore. You're a head coach, so just keep that stuff private. But I don't think that his comments were super egregious per se. I just think that because he said publicly, there was a lot of outpour. And then the thing Hackett recently, I saw that he responded. So, what do you guys think?
Yeah, the piggyback off of what you said, it's the reason why he did it. He did it because he wanted to protect his quarterback. He wanted to protect Russell Wilson, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people have said that Russell Wilson was extremely, extremely sensitive. And in order to protect someone like me, it's like you're protecting him. And I feel like that's why he did it, was to protect his quarterback, and not only that, but protect his team. But what he did more so for himself is he put that target on his back now, because now you got the local media and all the NFL media talking about you. So if you're not better, you look bad.
Right.
So then that's where it comes down to, and that's one of those things. I think he's okay with it. I think he's okay with put everything in me. I'll wear it. If we suck, then it's not Russell Wilson that sucks. It's me being a big mouth head coach that sucks, right? And I think that he's just making Russell Wilson's job a little easier, and I think that's what he's trying to do. And it's a Bill Parcells tactic. That's who he come up under. Like, that's who he learned from, like Bill Parcells. Bill Parcells did that all the time, right? So I think that's literally what it was. I mean, I don't really know the coaching code, because I know Tony Dungy and Herm Edwards mentioned that he wrote the coaching code, which I don't know what the coaching code is. But I mean, that's how he felt. I'm glad that he's behind his comments. That's how he felt, right? Because so many times, being media, like a lot of times, like people like try to throw box to hide their hand. He didn't hide his hand. He said what he said, right?
Right.
There you go. But yeah.
And someone I follow on social media, and I'm actually really happy for her. I know it's Joy, but I think it's at Joy Angela on Instagram. She got the opportunity to interview Dr. J. During the interview, he has very interesting stuff, but we're specifically talking about his comments about Kevin Durant and the super teams. Did you guys get a chance to see the interview, and what was he inbounds or out of bounds for what he said?
I actually did see the interview, and I believe ESPN, NBA on ESPN, on Instagram had posted snippets of the conversation, and Dr. J's reaction was like, "Yeah, I'm like years, bro." And with all due respect, right, I think every athlete, former athlete, even fans, they're entitled to their opinion, right, on that situation. I make no mistake. I enjoy Kevin Durant as a basketball player. I think he's extremely talented, but I do know that it was a shoo-in once he went to the Warriors who was going to win the championship. Like I didn't find those games in the finals really enjoyable, to be completely honest with you. But I think that I don't even think I'm not going to say that he was out of bounds, Ralph Tar. I think he was speaking from the heart and how he just personally feels. And you have a lot of the old school cats who believe that there's a certain way and style that you're supposed to win, right? I like to see players who, can go to the grind. Not saying that you don't have talent on you, but I'm opposed to stacking the deck. However, me and you had a conversation, last night, whatever, prior to the show, and I believe that those rings still count. But I'm a person, guys, and I want to say this. I want people to really take this into consideration, just how I feel. I believe that rings have weight. For example, none of us are married. Say one day we get married, we go ring shopping or something, right? Every ring has characters. There's more carats in one ring, more carats in another ring. Why? Because it's different. So I believe postseason runs, have weight based off of who you have to go to and who you play with. Players you play with. That's why we value a Dirk ring, right, or a Hakeem Olajuwon ring, or Kobe's last 2 rings, or last like 5 rings. Like I meant 2 rings. Like I personally value them higher than like KD's rings. But I will never say that KD's rings don't count or anything like that. So I think Dr. J talking about the super teams, I didn't really have any issue with his comments or whatever. And I don't think anyone in the comment section that had any issues on that post either that ESPN posted. So, but everyone's going to feel a certain way. I just hope that Kevin Durant, as long as he's at peace with his decision, I guess that's. But I wouldn't say one man destroyed the NBA. Because we can look at LeBron in Miami, we can look at a lot of different things, right? And Amon Shumpert had some special comments on how he felt that LeBron changed the NBA. So I'm not going to put it on KD's shoulder.
The one thing that I will say before we move on is I think that there's a couple of different things that I'll say, not just the one thing. One, I do think when it comes to the way that when you listen to the conversation, the interview, look at his list, you can see the way that he looks at the game, regardless if you think it's an old way of looking at it or whatnot. I think that you can see that the way that he looks at the game. The one thing I say I dislike about the super team concept is when you go back through time, just look at how many Hall of Famers were on one team at different points. You got the Celtics with Bill Russell, and you got the Lakers with Elgin Baylor and Will and Jerry West all on the same team. Then you go to the Celtics, the Sixers team he played on. Then you got the Celtics, the Lakers with Kareem, Magic, and Worthy. Then you go through the Bulls, and just through time, there's always been multiple Hall of Famers on teams. So I think that the one thing that gets misconstrued, and I think this is where people come from with it, is if the team brings this together. This is not me losing and then wanting to go partner up with someone I lost to. And I think that that's the distinction that people feel and why they feel such a way about it. But also at the same time, you just got to look at like his list is his list. How he feels is how he feels. And there's a lot of old heads that feel that way and younger people feel a different way.
Right. Can I add to your point real quick? I think too, like era has a lot to do with it as well.
Yeah.
Because to me, I think that if Kevin Durant doesn't go the path that he goes to, I think that, or LeBron, I feel like they would have way more rings than what they went to anyway, right? If they would have just stayed put, because they're putting on them, they put themselves on teams that literally don't make sense.
Right.
Like if Kevin Durant would have kept the Nets, me and Kai have talked about this. If the Nets would have stayed the same, there was nothing wrong with the original Nets team, right? But all of a sudden, to get James Harden, you trade your rim protector, you trade your best wing defender, and you trade a guy that is a good backup point guard, right? So you're trading pieces that will actually help you win for a guy that, because he's a superstar and he averages 20 points, 30 points per game, it doesn't help you in the long run. Because then when injuries occur, there's no depth there. And then you're screwing your chances of winning, right? Like this Phoenix team that he's currently on doesn't make sense to me. Like it's not a very good team. Who's the ball handler? Number one, and primary ball handler. And number 2, Bradley Beal's never healthy. Number 3, you're never healthy. So it's the teams that he puts himself on that doesn't make sense in order to create a super team, right? Where at least if you're mentioning all these older teams back in the day, at least a lot of your teams made sense. You had ball handlers, you had team guys who are willing to play defense. Like the Bulls are a perfect example of a super team with depth, right? B.J. Armstrong could carry the ball up and down and play defense. Tony Kukoc could do this, right? Dennis Rodman was getting rebounds, right? You had all these other Luke Longley. You had all these different pieces where on these super teams, it doesn't make any sense because you're literally asking 4 players to do everything, score, play defense, and then when they get hurt, the depth doesn't follow it, and this is why you're not winning, and this is why you're getting beat by teams with more depth. Right, so I feel like if Kevin Durant were to go to a Bucks, like how the Bucks built the team around Giannis, if he goes to a team like that, it would make more sense. If he went to a team like Kawhi Leonard had with the Raptors, it would make more sense, right? And I feel like these veterans be trying to drop jewels, but it comes off as hate.
Yeah.
But literally, it's not hate. Your team doesn't make sense. It doesn't.
And that happens.
The one thing I'll say is that this generation is definitely sensitive when it comes to any type of criticism. It always comes off as hate.
Yeah.
But we got to move on, guys. So next up, we got top NFL 100 players list has come out. Not in its entirety. I think we got 40 to 1.
Yeah.
Weeks until we got 5 more episodes after this one. So we got some time to talk about just a portion of the list. So as I pull up this list.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up that part too because I know they're at 40 to 31, I think now.
Yeah.
So we're doing 100 to 81, so about the first 20 or so. So just give us 1 second while we pull it up. All right, let's see. Numbers 50 through 41. So we want. Okay.
I apologize, yo. I should have had this up prior, but
I got the list right now. Actually,
all right.
Let me make sure it's the right one. Yeah, I got the list right now, Rob.
List 100 to
81,
91 first.
91. Okay, sure. So at 100, we have David Bakhtiari, offensive tackle from the Green Bay Packers. At 99, we have Corey Lindsey, center from the Los Angeles Chargers. 98, DeAndre Hopkins, wide receiver, currently now with the Tennessee Titans. At 97, we have Joe Thuney, guard from the Kansas City Chiefs. At 96, A.J. Terrell, cornerback, Atlanta Falcons. 95, Tyler Lockett, wide receiver, Seattle Seahawks. 94, Ty Dolla Sign, a.k.a. Trayvon Edmonds, linebacker from the Chicago Bears. 93, Chris Olave, wide receiver from New Orleans Saints. At 92, Dre Greenlaw, linebacker from the San Francisco 49ers. And you said 91, Matt Milano, linebacker from the Buffalo Bills. I like him. He's good. So we have a linebacker, we have a couple of defensive players, we have a couple offensive players, and I believe we have 2 wide receivers in DeAndre Hopkins and what's his face? I think I said Chris Olave, right? No, Tyler Lockett, excuse me. So
and I apologize, bro. I hate to do it to you, but I don't know what list you're looking at.
That's the wrong list?
Yeah.
This is July 26, 2023 published. That's what mine says. See, this is published.
I'm looking at the NFL.com website, and it has a different list. It has Devontae Smith at 100.
Oh, my bad. You know what? This is a Sports Knots. They took the list and they rearranged it. My bad.
Oh, okay. I see what you did. Okay.
But
they made their own list. Go ahead.
So we got DeMarcus Lawrence for the Cowboys. He wasn't on the list last year. Tristan Wirth, all the way down at 98 from 57 from last year. We got Harrison Smith at 97. Trevor Lawrence makes his debut at 96. Jamal Williams stirred up a lot of drama over the last couple of days talking about beignets. Now that he with the Saints, but he's at 95. Scary Terry at 94. Eric Kendricks, who is now with the Los Angeles Chargers, at 93. Your boy Marlon Humphreys at 92. Dalvin Cook, who's looking for a team, at 91. Do y'all have any problems with these lists? Just real.
Yes, absolutely. I can't stand
Go
this
ahead. Go ahead.
I can't stand these lists because to me, how did the rankings are they ranking the best player currently in the NFL or what they did last year? Because if you're going by last year, Cooper Kupp didn't play and he's like 70. He barely played. So you're telling me Cooper Kupp last year had a better year than Terry McLaurin? No. I never understand these lists because how do you rank from certain positions? I
think it's a combination of both, though.
I don't get it though. To me, these lists make no sense.
Personally, I do understand because I'm still not. If I'm assuming, but I think the one thing that you got to do is unless he got some crazy injury, which prior to this list he didn't have the hamstring injury that he has right now. Cooper Kupp is. I'm assuming you're coming into the year healthy. So based on that alone, I'm taking Cooper Kupp over Terry.
No, I am too. But if it's based off of what they did in 2023, no, because he didn't. Yeah. He played half of a year.
Yeah.
So that's what I don't like the fact. How do you rank them? Like I don't get where the.
You want something concrete.
It's like it's inevitable that Patrick Mahomes is going to be number one. So it's a waste of time. So I didn't know who number one is. It's a waste of time. But going from number 1 to 10, how are you ranking these people? It doesn't make sense. The rankings. It doesn't. I hate it. It doesn't. It's just content to watch on TV, but there's no concrete detail of why someone is ranked higher than someone else. And I'm looking on these lists. Some of these people, their numbers, you're basing it based off of reputation and not what they did in 2023. You're not. You're just basing it off of reputation.
Yeah.
And if it's just a reputation list,
the players voted on this.
I don't give a damn. It's a reputation list.
It like that's the thing. That's like most of the time we're like, oh, these lists would be better if it was the players and wow.
Yeah, I know, I get that.
But then it's like the players.
What is it based off of? So if you're saying best player in 2023, there's no way a person that didn't finish the season, like who had like 20, 35 catches, should be on a running of somebody who had 1,000 yards and like 90 catches. That makes no sense. Based off of 2020, based off what they did last year, doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. I get it based off of reputation, cool.
I personally
based off of what they did last year.
It's a combination of that plus people's biases.
Oh yeah, it's always going to be biased even with players.
Right. Like, and I specifically wanted to talk about the players that's here, not players that's not on this list. So, so I'm not going to talk about Lamar yet, but eventually I will. But I do think that it's a combination of what they can do, what you think they will do, and what they have done. And so,
say that. Not saying the best players.
There is no consistency on it because, and I know I said I didn't want to do it, but it's like Joey Bosa played 6 games and he's in the 6th, some shit like that, like 71. But it's like, but then there's certain people that played all year and they balled out and they didn't make the list. So
my point, like Zadarius Smith, did he make it? I don't think Zadarius Smith he was an all-pro, had like 10 sacks, and Joey Bosa's like number 60 something. Like, why is he on the list? He only played 6 games. That's
and Dak Prescott, I think, like led the league. Didn't he lead? He led
the league in interceptions. He's like 75 something.
He's at 50. Dak Prescott's at 56.
And that's why I'm saying that I don't like this. He did not have a better year than Trevor Lawrence did. I don't like this. I don't think it makes sense. And these lists never made sense to me. They never did because I'm looking at players that literally were injured. And Joey Bosa, I'm glad you brought that up. But Joey Bosa should not be on this list. Dude only had 6 sacks. Like, he only played 6 games, didn't have double-digit sacks. And there's people I know that had double-digit sacks that aren't making this list.
Right. And so next up on it, we got 90.
Okay.
DeAndre Hopkins is at 90. Who's out with the Tennessee Titans. He took the money grab. Marshawn Lattimore at 89. Aiden Hutchinson making his debut to the list at 88. We got Chris Lindstrom for the Falcons at 87. Justin Fields at 86. Laramie Tunsil, tackle out of for the Texans at 85. Your boy Zadarius Smith at 84. Tarrian Armstead, tackle for the Dolphins at 83. Then we got another string of Dolphins players with Tua at 82, and then Christian Wilkins, defensive tackle, at 81.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
This is the one for me that I think is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Because I can't wait to talk about it because I'm definitely going to make a note of it. But I think this is where we have this conversation of quarterbacks. And it's like, I understand last year, did Justin Fields have a better year than Trevor Lawrence? I would say no. But then it's like, I think his ability to run the ball was like, I don't think we expected him to run the ball like that. So I think when you start talking about players that you, coming from a player's perspective, when you start having like, all right, who are some players that you? Because I've always been curious. Do they just give you a sheet with 100, with a number of 100, and do you name the best players, or is there just like name 10 players and then based on that we're gonna mention, we kind of got to vote on this is how it fell. I wish they would just put out how this list came together, because as much as I do think eventually I've always been more of a Justin Fields over Trevor Lawrence guy. But as we speak, Justin Fields is not a better quarterback than Trevor Lawrence. So it's just like for him to be in the 80s and Trevor Lawrence barely made the list.
Right. And Trevor Lawrence took a team to the playoffs and won a division and won a playoff game.
And he won the game too.
Something they haven't done in
that's
years.
What I'm saying, doesn't make sense. And then Tua, how is Tua ahead of him? And Tua didn't even finish the year.
All right.
Tua didn't finish the year.
He had better weapons, but he was balling.
Yeah, he was balling, but he didn't finish.
He had better weapons, but he was balling though.
Right. But no, I'm with you guys. I actually like what you said, Ralph, about the Justin Fields thing. I kind of look at like just him being. I feel like he's a little more valuable in some respects, only because of like his running ability. But then again, once again, like we talked about, it's not called the most valuable player list, right? It's called the best. And I believe we're all in unison. And I would like to know, what is the criteria? Is there a concrete criteria? I believe there isn't, but clearly, but there should be some type of concrete criteria. And also, how do they kind of derive this? If they want to keep anonymity or whatever they call it, they say anonymous, you're not going to show the players' names, whatever. All right, fine. But I just feel like we should kind of get some insight into how it was derived. Even some of the ESPN lists that they come up with, I think sometimes over the years, they'll give you a little snippet of, okay, a panel of 140 experts or whatever list decide this, or who's the most clutch and blah, 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 blah. Like, give us some data. Give us, you know what I'm saying? But I get what like even Tar was saying earlier. He's like, yeah, we know Patrick Mahomes is going to be number one until he falls off or whatever. So I'm going to knock him off, right? But just give us a set criteria, as with anything, and I think it would be okay. Even Shady McCoy was like, yeah, he's like, I didn't vote, but there's years, times when I would vote, other years I'm like, yeah, whatever. But people vote for their friends, so there's a lot of stuff going on. So.
And real quick, look at these lists and tell me if I'm bugging. What they do is they'll take multiple players from the same team and just rank them next to each other. So if there's two Lions, I'll put a Lion at 60 and put a Lion at 59. I'll put a Dolphin at 70 and put a Dolphin at 71 because I'm lazy and I don't feel like I just need two Dolphins. So I'm gonna just put them right here. Am I bugging when I say that? It's either the quarterback and the receiver next to each other. So Jared Goff he's a decent quarterback. So I'll put him at number 70 and I'll put Amon-Ra St. Brown at 69.
All right.
That's literally look at the list. If I'm bugging, then I'll say I'm bugging. But that's literally how it is. If there's two players on the defensive line on the same team, or like from the defense, I'm gonna put a Dolphins middle linebacker here and I'm gonna put the Dolphins defense in before him. That's literally how it is. Like,
I gotta pull up the list,
guys.
Yeah, I got to pull up the list that Ralph got, because remember, I still got that fan made list.
I just got mine from NFL.com.
Yeah, man. I was reading it off like it was facts, man. I was like 100.
And so with the rest of the time we got left, we're gonna do some quick hitters.
All right.
So long-time radio host with the Washington Commanders was let go. He made some statements about a female journalist. Saying, "Oh, look, there's Barbie," and he went on. He said, "I personally, to give my perspective, okay. I personally feel like if he would have left it at that, because if you've seen the chick, she looked like a Barbie, but it's other things that he said that could be misconstrued as disrespectful, and that's the part where I feel like All right, maybe he did deserve to get let go, but which leads on to my question: did he deserve to be let go?
I mean, I thought that a suspension maybe or some type of reprimanding, whatever, might have been more warranted, than a complete firing, right? But if there was a certain level of whatever their mandate is at their place of business, right? Because every place of business is different. I think he was a Washington Commanders host as well who said it, right? So, and I guess they considered it a form of workplace harassment, I guess, in this situation.
And we already know their history, so any kind of
Yeah,
construed as workplace harassment, bro.
Harassment, you're up out of there. So,
the room, bro.
so if it's being used as workplace harassment, then I mean, hey, you know what I'm saying? Not even if maybe I wouldn't have, went so harsh or whatever, but I think they said they did an internal investigation as well. So maybe there was some other stuff going on.
Right.
And sometimes companies may not just like you and they're looking for a reason to fire you anyway. And so it's like, oh, wait, workplace harassment. All right, there we go. Check out, and go from there. So, I mean, I'll roll with it. But yeah, I do agree that she looked like Barbie, and the Barbie movie happens to be out.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I
I don't think the comments were malicious, but if he was skating on thin ice, because we don't know if he was skating on, we don't know if this was a second warning, and if like you do something one more time, then it's done for you. We don't even know if it was that situation. So I can't really speak on that without knowing that, but I don't think the comments itself warranted it. Maybe it was suspension, and I've heard radio people say way worse. Right. So I told Kai yesterday. That's the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. I'll tell you off the screen. That's the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. And that got suspension for 2 weeks. So, but yeah, maybe skating on thin ice. So
yeah, I think it's because of where he was, what organization he said it for, and the fact that she made a deal about it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to continue to keep having we got new ownership now. I don't want to keep having those issues. So I got to get you out of here, bro. Next up, we got a couple big injuries. We talked about Jalen Ramsey, and he had a complete tear of his meniscus. And I believe he's out for. I think they got him coming back maybe December, and that's being nice, considering. I know it's a different sport, but James Wiseman had this same injury, and he was out for over a year.
Yeah.
As well as Joe Burrow, I believe he strained his calf during practice. He says, according to TJ Houshmandzadeh, said that he should be back by week 1, if not week 2.
Yeah.
Do you think how big of an impact do these injuries have on these teams?
Okay, so Tar, I'll let you take it off because I think I started off the last.
Yeah, obviously Joe Burrow, that's hurts. And then I'm looking at their backup. Trevor Siemian ain't it, so it's obviously if you have if you have Super Bowl aspirations and you're supposed to be the creme de la creme of the AFC, you need your quarterback. Obviously. So if we're talking about the top 100, he's probably number 2, number 3 on that list. And if you don't have him, it's just what do you have if you're the Bengals? So obviously that's a big deal. I think the Jalen Ramsey thing, although it does hurt, I'm not going to sit up there and say they picked up Eli Apple like it's such a big deal, because obviously we know Eli Apple's game is not a big deal.
Right.
But the simple fact of the matter is, on a Vic Fangio defense, with the pass rushers and cornerback play, I think that injury hurts a little bit less than a quarterback does, because you still have Xavier Howard, you still have other guys on the back end that can help. So you can weather that storm for now because you have enough talent on that Dolphins team, and you have the defensive coordinator that is a beast. So I think that they can survive that injury. But however, if you're the Bengals, you cannot survive Joe Burrow. So.
Yeah, facts. I definitely agree with that, man. I think that we all know Joe Burrow. How important he is to that team, and how, if you look at the media, the way that they talk about him, he's the second coming of Tom Brady.
I can't say anything negative about the dude. The boy nice, cool.
And so I'm like, you lose him, hopefully he can come back week 1 or 2, because if you lose him for
Yeah.
4 games and that could go
Mhm.
into the regular season, I just don't see them being able to stay afloat, especially with how tough that division is.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't think that their defense is that strong where like the Ravens still made the playoffs without Lamar because of how good that defense was and how far they were out in front of the rest of that division and in that conference. And so I don't think that they have that type of defense where they can sustain without him. Next up, Jonathan Taylor has requested a trade.
Mm.
Is this a smart move?
So that's a good question. Uh, hmm. That's you know what I'm literally like thinking about it because I was thinking about it before the show and I'm still kind of indifferent about it because of the market like the as we guys see there's like a running back pandemic thing going on right now in terms of them not being able to get the compensation that they feel, people saying that it's not a valuable position, Ursay saying weird things to the media like he always says, but so I'm like I'm gonna say yes because I feel like if he can request a trade and go to a situation where he can at least get something like maybe winning out of it, because the Colts aren't going to win anytime soon, right?
Right.
And maybe there's a team that is willing to pay him who feels they need a running back or something. But it's so weird because here's why I say I'm indifferent, Ralph, right? Look at what Saquon Barkley got with his contract. That 1 year. Look at J.K. Dobbins, who's holding out. J.K. Dobbins has been mad since the end of last year. He's been mad. He's still mad. Melvin Gordon saying weird things to the media about J.K. Dobbins' contract situation. So, like, I was like, well, what if the Ravens try to get a Jonathan Taylor? But then again, it's like J.K. Dobbins wants a contract. So if this is about money, because clearly it's about money, then it's like, where can you go where you can get adequate compensation and still have a career? Because remember, these are career moves when he started from team to team. So, and he's in the prime of his career, well, early in his career. You know what I'm saying? You're talking about someone who some of us actually thought was an MVP candidate when he at his best. So I'm a little bit indifferent, but I'm going to say yes because if he feels like the situation just isn't what he wants in Indy in terms of money, situation, the whole nine, then sure. But like, I don't know if the grass is going to be greener on the other side. That's just me. I'm kind of curious to hear what you guys think about it, but I'm indifferent.
It allowed me to figure out what my owner really thinks about me. So I
Okay.
don't think it's a bad thing because if he never requested a trade, we would have never got them dumb Jim Irsay comments. And Jim Irsay basically said, if he died, he leaves, the league is still going to go on. So basically, you're saying you don't need me, so let me go, right? And it's a contradiction to me. You say you don't want to trade me because I'm valuable, but then at the same time, you're saying I'm not valuable. So
Right.
obviously, I'm valuable. If you don't want to trade me, just trade me. Then if the league is going to go on, so the contradiction right there is it's completely just it blows my mind how stupid Jim Irsay was, but it allowed me to understand how much you think of me as a player to let me go, right? So and it should be an eye opener for other Colts players too because this is a guy that basically carried your offense, and if you say that about him, what do you say about me behind closed doors, right? So I feel like it was an eye opener not just for him but for other Colts players too. So that's how I look at it. So of course, I think
I agree. I think it is a smart move because when you look at the whole landscape, there has to be some type of repercussion. You can't just keep treating everybody like they just whatever. When
right,
the players that we're talking about, the Saquon Barkleys, the Jonathan Taylors, the Josh Jacobs, they're in top 5 of running backs on a constant basis, going for 1,000 yards every year, putting out a lot of output. They're the focus of their offenses where you can't just draft someone and then throw them in there and then they just gonna be good and have that same output. It just doesn't happen like that. We don't get a Brees Hall every year. We don't get a Damian Pierce every year. So like, I think that when you look at it that way, plus how much they're getting paid, I seen something the other day that Bijan Robinson, the day he steps on the field, he's currently the highest paid running back in the league right now.
Man.
And It hasn't even taken a real NFL snap yet. Now he cooking people in training. I hope that's not the starting linebackers because it's going to be a long season. It's going to be a real long season. The way he was, I think it was 44, bro. I hope that's not your starter, but I hope that I really think it's a smart move. I hope that it we get the outcome for him that he's getting because Ursay's comments are really telling. But
Agreed.
get up out of here, y'all. Tar, thanks for joining us, Brody.
Anytime, of course.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you follow all those socials on the bottom. On the bottom, like, subscribe on YouTube at J.U.K.Media on YouTube, Juke Media. On Facebook, the He Say She Say channel. Like, share. Thanks for watching. Peace out.
Peace.